Chief of Staff for the Mayor of St. Louis, Jeff Rainford. We're talking about you like you're not here, but you are. So we'll ask you these questions. What's the deal with Lyft? Why are you so against Lyft? It's an app. It's a startup. It's different. It's new. Kids want it. They need it. What's the problem?
Safety and reliability are the primary issues. So we are not against Lyft. As a matter of fact, we met with Lyft with two of their government affairs people and their lobbyists earlier this week. The mayor and I did, and our lawyer and a couple of other people. And what we told them is three things. Number one is that we're going to work with them to change the rules to accommodate Lyft so that Lyft can operate its car sharing service in St. Louis. Number two is until we get that worked out, we do not want them, it's not our position, we don't want them operating outside the law without a license. And number three, that they have to follow any court orders. They've sort of indicated from time to time that they're above the law and the court orders don't apply to them. We said we're going to stop talking to you if you don't. We're a nation of laws and not people, and nobody, including millionaires, are above the law. And the Uber guys are not above the law. But at the end of the day, the Lyft guys are not above the law. At the end of the day, Uber Black will probably get licensed in St. Louis first. And then behind that, Lyft will get licensed. Lyft is, in fact, licensed in California. They just announced some new rules that they told us they agreed to in Detroit. They'll get licensed there. And the Lyft guys told us, hey, we want to be licensed. We understand your concerns about safety, insurance, reliability, all of those things. We want to be licensed. But the rules as they exist today don't fit our model, and we agree with that. So we're going to work with them to try to figure out if we can change the rules so that it does fit their model.
Would you say they've been kind of adversarial? They've kind of is this a guerrilla style of marketing they've tried?
That's exactly, in my opinion, they didn't say so. They said they wanted to come into St. What one of the founders told me on the telephone was they wanted to get here before any of their competitors beat them to it. I do think that that's exactly what it was. I never really heard of Lyft until about the week before they said, hey, we're going to start operating in St. Louis. They got all this free publicity. Now everybody in St. Louis is talking about Lyft. It's kind of genius. I mean, these guys in San Francisco are really good at this kind of stuff. Now they're backing off. Now that they've got, they've introduced their brand in St. Louis. They're not operating here now. They are going to start working with us to get the rules. And so, yeah, I do think that exactly what you said it was, that it was part of their marketing campaign to introduce Lyft to St. Louis. They got a bunch of free publicity and worked really well for them.
Of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention every time I've talked to them, they like to point out they do background check their people and they do have X number of dollars. They even like to say over the insurance requirements of a taxi cab.
Right. So the airlines say the same thing. Hey, we follow rules that are more stringent than the FAA, but I don't think you would suggest that we get rid of the FAA and just take the airline's word for it. Most people, when it comes to safety, whether the car is safe, I got a daughter. I don't want her getting in the car with some pervert or something, and I'm not just going to take Lyft's word for it. Most people, when it comes to public safety, whether it's the airlines, buses, trains, or cars, they want some kind of third-party verification. That's what the law was set up for. That's what the regulations are set up for. And Lyft told us they get that. They said we can easily comply with the rules, but they are correct. The rules were written, first, or the law was passed 7-8 years ago. Nobody even thought of Lyft, including the Lyft guys hadn't thought of Lyft by then. And so the rules do not fit their model, so we have to change the rules, but we still should have rules primarily to protect public safety and consumer rights.
Does the city have a little bit of a marketing challenge there? You're coming, if you're coming across to a certain population that you're not open-minded or that you're not with the times in terms of being flexible.
No, I don't think so. I think it comes out in the laundry. I mean, we've been talking to Uber Black. Uber Black is a different model. Uber Black are sedans or luxury cars, and you use your app to call the luxury cars. Not a taxi cab, doesn't really provide the same service, costs more. We've been in negotiations with them probably about 2 months now. They chose to enter the St. Louis market a lot differently than Lyft. They came to us and said, hey, your rules don't apply to our model. Can we change the rules? So we've been in negotiation. We're kind of the middle party with the cab commission on one side and Uber Black on the other side. We were on the telephone 2 days ago I met 3 days ago with the taxi cab commission folks, 2 days ago with the Uber guys, and I think we're pretty close to getting those rules done. And so hopefully in the next few weeks that'll get done. Then we'll turn our attention to these ride-sharing programs, which are a completely different model.
And Uber has one of those as well.
It's called Uber X. So really the way these ride-sharing models, I talked at length to the founder of Lyft. It's really, he does not view it as a renegade taxi company. What he really views it as is really trying to get people, and I love this model, trying to get people together for ride-sharing, which may be carpooling, or maybe you're going to drive to Denver and you want somebody to go with you. Maybe you drive downtown every day. You want to see if any of your neighbors want to go with you. What he says is that we all drive around in empty cars and we clog up the streets and we need more streets and we pollute the air. That part of the model, by the way, is great. But there is a part of the model where they say, hey, you want to use your car to drive people around for money. That's a taxi cab service, and that part of it clearly has to be regulated as a taxi service. The other part of it, I think, our view would be is that we make sure that as a third-party verification, that when you get into a car with somebody, say whether it's carpooling, driving to Denver, or whatever it is, you know that person is reliable, that person is not going to do something bad, not going to rob you, and that you know when you get in the car, the brakes work and that sort of thing. And that really is our interest. And so I think at the end of the day, when people see that these services come to town, but they have third-party verification, I actually think more people will use it because there'll be a third party that says, yes, this driver is reliable, not the guy who's going to make all the money off of the driver, but a third party, and yes, this car is reliable. And I think people will actually take comfort of that, and more people ultimately will use these ride-sharing services.
Okay, bad pun, but let's switch gears a little bit here. Not all of the loop is in the city limits, which you are working for the city of St. Louis, but your thoughts on the trolley and where it stands and what it might mean to the city.
Well, you're going to hear from Joe Edwards later tonight, and the Loop is one of the great streets of America. It's phenomenal. I was just down there over the weekend, and it is an amazing place, and I think it will become even more amazing with this amenity. It's going to be something that I think the tourists will use. I think it will bring even more people to the Del Mar Loop. I think that it's going to be a great thing. I also think, though, that it is back to the future. So St. Louis used to be really, the capital of streetcars. We made most of the streetcars, or a lot of the streetcars were manufactured in St. Louis, and people got around a long time ago, several generations ago, people got around by streetcar. And I think that the cost of doing Metrolink is just too prohibitive for Metrolink to go everywhere. Streetcars and then buses are, too ephemeral to attract economic development. You could have the bus today, but if you're somebody who's thinking about investing a lot of money, the bus could be gone tomorrow, so you're not going to make the investment. Seems like streetcar is a good middle ground where you can have a development, you can have people who don't want to be car dependent, can use it to get connected. When we reestablish streetcars throughout St. Louis, it'll be a way to get around without being dependent on a car. It'll get you to Metrolink, get you to the bus line, get you to work, and that sort of thing. So I think we're going to go back to the future in streetcars, and I think we're starting on the Del Mar Loop, and I applaud Joe Edwards and everybody for their vision and their willingness to be the first one.